Just want to hop on here quick because we have ramped up our travel schedule. And one of the things is that fitness isn't something that we actually take a vacation from. And so the kettle doesn't know this, but I wanted her to kind of share some tips, or we could share some tips, how we travel, how we stay on track rather, with our workouts and even nutrition when we travel.
Definitely it starts from home, right? So before you even take the trip, you look at the gym maybe that the hotel has, or if you're staying at an Airbnb, you look at gyms nearby, or you figure out what your plan for movement is, whether that's, you're going for runs wherever you're staying, maybe you're doing group classes, maybe you're doing a gym, your hotel has a gym, but like you have the intention of training from before you leave home or moving from before you leave home. And so you pack accordingly, right? So you make sure you pack your exercise clothes, your shoes, all that stuff. Enough clothes for the length of your trip. So if you're able to wash, then maybe you don't need as much. But if you're not, then maybe you need more. What we also do is once we get where we're going, we figure out, okay, what's the schedule for workouts based on if we're doing other stuff that has been scheduled. We schedule our workouts typically to fit the priorities of the day or the trip. But exercise, we do treat it as a priority. So it's not a situation where, it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of where are we going to position it. We try as much as possible to stick to our schedule at home if we can, as far as training in the morning. But if that's not possible, then we just get it in wherever we can. I think traveling with supplements as well for us is big where we can. So I brought sample size protein powders. Yeah. I brought my tub of pre-workout because we're here for a while. Yeah, so I think for fitness, that's the big thing. Just like I said, I think for both of us, travel can be a little can induce anxiety, and working out and keeping that part of our schedule actually helps counter,
Yeah, I think the main thing is just being intentional about it. Like it cannot be an afterthought, and it's crazy because even with my personal fitness journey, like fitness while traveling has evolved for me. Like I remember when my trip used to revolve around where I can eat, right? Okay, as soon as I touch down, da da da. But now it's like, okay, well, yeah, I know I can find food, but where am I going to train? And ideally, if we're staying, I personally like to stay in Airbnbs, and so if we're staying in a place that has a really nice gym, then that's a win, that's a plus. But like the girl said, that's literally one of the things that we look for, even when booking accommodations, right? We look to see what the facility is like. Like even when we were coming here, like one of the first things I did was I checked out the gym. Okay, well, they do have a gym, and typically when we're on vacation, honestly, if they have a functional trainer, some free weights, and some sort of cardio, I'm typically good. If it's a short trip, if it's a longer trip, I would want something a bit more extensive, and that's why we tend to do like commercial box gyms in the States. So like we would get a day pass. The Kettle has this really cool hack of getting us like free day passes. And so like we typically don't pay, or if we do pay, minimal, it isn't that much. But those are things, it's just really having that intentionality with making your workouts or your training program a priority. Now, as far as nutrition goes, what does that, because I know what my biggest struggle is when I travel, but as far as nutrition goes, how do you stay on track? Especially coming from the Bahamas, where when you go to these other countries, there's so much new food that you want to try, some of your favorite food that you may not be able to get in the Bahamas or, where you're from regularly. So like, how do you not just dive head first into food when you travel? Like what's your food strategy?
I don't think I have a solid food strategy. I think I'm just mindful of the timing and the types of meals that I have. So like you said, we're in a new country. So like yesterday we tried different fruits that are like native to this country. So I don't know, I just think like, and so for lunch, so using that same example, we had fruits that morning, which isn't necessarily unhealthy, but of course has a bit more sugars than, um, it has sugars, natural sugars. But for lunch, we decided, I wanted to have a more balanced meal. So I had like a rice bowl, a chicken rice bowl with black beans, lettuce. So, and then dinner, I had chicken tenders and fries. So balance, right? So, but ideally, I would try to stay away from too much processed, too much fried, all in one day. So if I'm going to have those things, I try to spread them out and make sure that I'm also timing my workouts with those higher carbs, maybe more processed foods. So yeah, last night I had chicken tenders and fries from room service and tiramisu as well. Carb loading, of course, today is leg day. But yeah, so I wouldn't have had that. And so knowing that I had that, I would not have had something fried processed for breakfast, fried processed for lunch, and then having something fried processed for dinner. And now this morning, I'm going to be intentional about having a more balanced breakfast because I've already, gone a little off the deep end yesterday with the chicken tenders. So it's just a matter of being conscious and being mindful, not necessarily, okay, I have to weigh all my food. And I did bring my food scale, but not necessarily like, oh, I have to weigh all my food. I have to nitpick and I can't enjoy the foods on my trip. But okay, if you do indulge more than you know that you probably should, what are you doing to balance it out? And what are you doing beyond that? If you had a day of indulgence, the next day maybe not so much of a day. Yeah, I think it's just, and again, reality is you probably still, when you get home, you probably see the scale spike a little bit, but a lot of that is also from just the additional sodium and, water manipulation from travels. But that's my strategy. Like, just be intentional. Again, be mindful of how you're planning out your meals. A lot of times, you're making reservations to places or, your intentions for the day of indulging. So just be intentional about what you do before and after those indulgences.
I think the food part for me is always a challenge in terms of I literally eat the same thing every day at home, and it's easy. So like I wake up, like I meal prep, I bulk cook, I eat literally the same thing. So food is something that I actually don't have to think about much as far as what I'm going to eat. When I travel, that of course is
Not the case.
not the case. You kind of derail that, but that's why I like staying in Airbnbs because typically, especially if we go to the U.S., like we're in Colombia now, but typically when we go in the U.S., we would have an Airbnb. We can go to the grocery store and buy food that we can cook. Even when we were in Milan, we still cooked in the Airbnb, right? And so that's why I really like the Airbnb because I personally prefer to cook my own food at home. You still be going? Yeah. All right. I personally prefer to cook my own food at home simply because I can control it more. But that's pretty much what it is. You just want to be intentional about your workouts and your fitness, your workouts and your nutrition, and just plan it out. And like I said, it's the intentionality that's important. All right. So we just wanted to share that with you guys. Hope you have an awesome trip whenever you travel again. Hope you found this video useful and helpful. All right. Peace.